Deep Space Nine today. My goal is to be somewhat random. I'm not doing this all the time. So I picked the card. Garak stood out today because at the end of the day, I think Garak is the best thing about Deep Space Nine, next to Dukat. In fact, all the Cardassians really make this show. At least that's how I feel today. That opinion could change tomorrow. I don't know. But yeah, Garak. If you haven't read Andy Robinson's novel, go read that. A Stitch in Time. I argue that it's the beginning of the whole 20 years of Trek novels that I discussed when I did my overview of the Coda series. But it's a fine thing to do. All right, so there's Andy Robinson. This is the Truth to Odo. Excuse for lack of imagination. I don't remember the specifics about Improbable Cause, the episode. Dropped the ball on that. Gonna have to go. Now the big Odo Garak episode was during the interrogation, and that was with the big build-up with the Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order, and then it was all a Dominion hoax or ruse. Ruse is the better word, right? But that's what comes to mind today. And of course, we have his father here, Anabram Tain. I'm looking forward to revisiting these beats when I am rewatching Deep Space Nine. Although I took a little break and finally watched Episode 9 in the Star Wars series of movies, and it wasn't that bad. I was okay with it. But anyway, there we go. So that's Garak. That's Tain. Great stuff. Once again, I want a remastered Blu-ray of Deep Space Nine, please. So given that, I wanted the trivia questions to relate to the randomness of the card I just dropped. So I'm going to have to do that. So instead of going to the Trivial Pursuit cards, which I've always had a love, mostly hate relationship with, I'm returning back to the Obsessed with Trek book and just finding a random Deep Space Nine page. And I'm in the Deep Space Nine area of the book, and I'm going to land here without really knowing where I'm landing. And that means possibly some trimming of the episode so I can get centered. So let's just do that right now. All right. So what we learned from this experience is that the answers are on the bottom, and then there's a larger question over here on this page that may or may not be able to be seen. We will cross that bridge when we cross to that bridge over there. All right, so I have a founder on the other page. I have the female founder that I'm looking at here. The Jem'Hadar used a cloak. I love that it says dagger here. That's a beautiful in-joke. I get it. Haha. Was not a shroud. No, wait a minute. This gets me out. I think it was a shroud. They called it their shroud. What do you, the viewer at home, think? I'm going to go with shroud because I think the cloak and dagger just gets us off track. We have the cloaks with the Alpha Quadrant folks. I think the invisibility screen was called shroud. Kasidy's freighter, I think it was the Zoza. Not the same Zoza that we call Zeppelin's fourth album. Was that? No, laptop doesn't agree with me. It shuts itself off. All right, well, we know it's not the Orinoco or the Ganges. Those are runabouts. I still want to say roundabout. Batris. Was that the Klingon ship from Star Trek 3? Who knows? All right. All right, the same-sex kiss between Dax and somebody else. Well, that's rejoined because that was a Dax episode. So I guess I shouldn't. Well, whatever owner is going to get this in a couple decades from now, maybe 4 or 5, I don't know. But rejoined is how I would answer that one. The Visitor is a great episode. It has Tony Todd, the great Tony Todd again, as Jake. I don't remember what Indiscretion is. Little Green Men, that's when Quark and company go to Area 51 back in 1947. Nice little beats there. Sisko's father's name is Brock Peters. That's not his name, but that's the actor who plays Sisko's father. I'm just going to go Joseph. I do not know, and none of these options are helping. Although Lafayette is Sisko's middle name. Is that his father's name? Yeah, that sounds like too on the nose. I think it might be something simple. It's Joseph, and we'll leave it at that. Sorry, I don't want to step on the Garak card that's down here. Deep Space Nine was a Maquis member. That is Eddington, because obviously these are all the other stars of the show. I should have tried to answer this before. I looked at my choices just to be that way. But yes, Eddington. Eddington was a tough beat. I don't really know the purpose of that episode. I think it was just to tie up the Maquis plot, because at that time they were all getting killed. And as Ira Steven Ira Burr, I forget the order. Is it Ira Burr? Anyway, you know, I think he's still pretty sour on the existence of the Maquis in the first place, because it was kind of a cynical move just to use them in Voyager, and then they ended up not using them in Voyager, but it got them together to go through this, because they wouldn't have been in the Badlands and then skirted up to the Delta Quadrant if they weren't chasing the Maquis, so it would bring the Maquis in, and, you know, the ins and outs of the potential that didn't go with Voyager. You know, Voyager would have been a lot of fun if they were just chasing a Cardassian ship, and then the Cardassian crew had to work with... Can you imagine that? Wouldn't have that been... That would have been quite a show. You have all these Seskas on the ship, right? Oops. To the Death, the Vorta. Well, that's Weyoun, right? That's really the only Vorta we know. I know we have Iggy Pop Vorta, and that's it, right? But I think who played Weyoun? Why isn't it coming to me? Oh, I almost see his name. Also, Shran from Enterprise. I feel bad that I can't remember it. That tells you about how long my day has been. But you will get the bio and the name drops in the description, unless I remember it by the time I'm done. Anyway, that's Weyoun. First appears in To the Death, I suppose. Now, I'm guessing this one, Eris, was the Vorta in the when they find the ship on the planet upside down. That's a Cold War episode where he's dealing with the death, or the impending death of the crewman that got shot. Anyway, which Klingon did the founders make Odo suspect had been replaced by a changeling? Now this is specific, right? Because there was a Klingon that was a changeling, and that was Martog, House of Martog. He was the real changeling, but the suspicion was on Galron. So the answer is Galron, even though the real changeling was Martog. We'll see if that pans out, if I got the question right as I just stare at it here. Yeah, Martog. So here is what we're bouncing in between. The founders made Odo suspect. Oh yeah, they put that straight into the DNA, and the whole misdirect was the Galron one. And I shouldn't circle this. I wouldn't circle the card, would I? No, I would not. I'll get it. All right, so 772 takes us way over here. This is the question. So we get to learn a little bit today. Season 2 finale. I'm not going to read this out loud. Hopefully I can get it. The Search. I talked about The Search in just an earlier episode, I think, with because Seska's in The Search. The actor who plays Seska is in The Search. The new comm badges that the movie folks are still annoyed about because that's when you saw the comm badges first on DS9 before you saw them in Generations. But, you know, when First Contact came along, DS9 folks had to wait before the uniforms dropped. It's an old thing. But the uniform beat worked, right? Because then Bashir was the Changeling, and we didn't know, and hilarity ensues. What's the question here today? Okay, well, beyond all this, that's not needed for the question down here. Um, uh, Odo killed another fellow changeling founder, so that's why Odo somehow became mortal. I really don't know how that beat worked, and they got back to it later. But there we go. Do we get? And our choices down here are no one, no one changeling can hurt another. That's how they did the term. Yeah, that's B. B's right there. All right. So thank you for playing along. I still got the whole page to go. I'm taking the lead out of the pen so I can use it, just a pencil, so I can use it as the pointing device. And here we go. So that was 772. Let's go back to 773. All right. So I saw the options, and it's the Iconian Gateway. That was a pretty awesome episode because everybody got the Jem'Hadar and the Federation folks got to team up and do their thing. And I like that whole Roman type, today I give up my life and I go reclaim it back into the battlefield. Those are the Jem'Hadar right there for you. And it was all about the Iconian Gateway. Yep, there we go. I'll get it again. And that is the page. So what we do now is we look at the answers right here. And because I have Spiffy Doc Cam, we'll do this. All right, so 76, wait a minute, 765. The answer is C. And we remember that question was about the, sorry, now I get to, everybody sees my forehead. I got to find a better way. Let's try this. So the Jem'Hadar's personal, so I said it was a shroud, and that was C, and that is correct. All right. So 677, it's the Yates ship, and that was B, Zoza. And we see that B is also correct. 767 was the question about the same-sex kiss, and that was in Rejoin D, and that should be it. Benjamin Sisko's father's name, so I guessed Joseph A. 768. That's a good guess. All right, feeling good, feeling good. 769, Eddington, A. All right, 770, the Vorta, that's Weyoun, should be C, correct. 771. This is, again, it was Galron versus Martok, A versus D, and it should be A. And 771 is A. And 772 was no changeling had ever harmed another. That should be B. And 773 is the Iconian Gateway, also B. Well, if you compare this to, like, my first Deep Space Nine card try, I think I'm getting the Deep Space Nine stuff back into the long-term memory. So that's the page there. So we will give it an X because I've dealt with this page. So congratulations. It seems as this works with the doc cam that only pages on the right side of the book will play in our game here, because then it gets kind of tricky. Well, not impossible. We can do it over here too. But that is Deep Space Nine questions for the day. Thank you, the Obsessed with Trek folks. And what can I say? It will be continued for another time.